So I think I put the title today, Negativity and Positivity. So the reality is that there is no negativity or positivity. Everything just is as it is. I sometimes think that we need to change our language, because our language formed and then created the separate self. So it was language-based when we started to speak and think, and subject and object began, and we kept saying you, me, and then it began to feel like there was somebody inside the body, whereas before that, everything was mystery. Before our language began, everything was, but it was mysterious. Just like it is for my dog Khaleesi. The world is, but she doesn't know the world. She doesn't know she is. She doesn't know she has black fur or pointy ears or a beautiful face or 15 years to live. So she doesn't know negativity or positivity. Even if she breaks her leg and she's in pain, she doesn't know it's good or bad, because she has no concepts of that. And prior to speaking and thinking, that's what life was like for us. Death and birth were the same, growth and destruction were the same. But then when we began to name everything, we gave certain words a negativity. So destruction, we associate that as negativity, whereas really it's not negative, it's the process of this. With the downfall of the tree and the rotting of the tree, a new life and a new tree forms. So how can that be negative? But yet we name it as if it is. Because I suppose in terms of survival, when things were destroyed, it made it harder for us to survival. So we began to name these words, and words had positivity or negativity in them. So happiness, you can guess what that is. Joy, you can guess what that is. Freedom, friendship, love, harmony, peace, growth. So all of those are what we'd associate as positive, and then a negative would be hatred, anger, jealousy, downfall, destruction, problems. But all of those things don't have any positivity or negativity in them. In fact, they don't even contain the word, they're experiences. Everything is experiences. And it's happening. And it's free to happen. It's free to be as it is. The bird sings, the rain falls, the tree grows, the tree dies, the human's born, the human grows, the human lives, the human dies. Health comes, disease comes. All of it is part of the flow. The mentality we get into as humans is we get into the mentality that we have to have positivity. We have to only have positive things in our life, otherwise there's something deeply wrong happening. So things can only go one way. So our mind begins to imagine how they should be, how they should look, and then the experience happens and it's different to what you imagine, and then suffering is created. And the person develops more energy to seek to get to a perfection of being, this perfect place where there's no more things that you don't want. There's only things that you do want. And that's really not going to work out in the long run. That's really not going to work out for you. That's going to be lots of suffering to try to get to this place of positivity. And try to keep this place of positivity and stay in this place of positivity. And it's a fixation on time. It's a fixation on subject, object, on yourself in time and what things are happening to you. What's happening to you. Whereas really, your actual experience, the joyful experience, the free experience, is that it's happening. The freedom is it's happening. This is your freedom. This, what's happening. This is everything you ever looked for. It's life itself. It's life itself. But you became fixated on events and trying to make your events positive for you. And trying and peddling and working so hard to make it positive. And as you do that, you're afraid of the negative, and by being afraid of the negative, by trying to push away the negative and only focus on the positive and try to get to the positive, you're actually encouraging the negative. It's like you're encouraging your fear of something. So say if there was a monster under your bed and you never dared to look under the bed at the monster, you just kept trying to stay on the bed and never look at the monster, and keep everything light and keep the monster at bay, because the monster, say, only came out at night. So you kept trying to keep lights on all the time and staying on your bed and never looking under it. What you're doing is you're increasing your fear of the monster. The monster's becoming bigger and bigger and bigger in your imagination. And it's the same with, say, if you're obsessed with health, trying to be healthy, you're fixating on being healthy and trying to push away lack of health, and normally you try and push it away out of fear, and by doing that you're actually fixating on not being healthy. And it's not the right way to live. You're actually doing the health to try to avoid something. And you're putting equal attention on both as you try to pedal away from something. So say if you're on a bicycle and somebody's chasing you, and if you get to the local supermarket, you're safe once you get into the local supermarket. You're in constant state of tension, trying to get to the future and away from the past. This is what the human does. And this is also not the way to get what you want. This stops you getting what you want because you're putting too much focus on the negative. The way wants happen is when they're not out of lack of fear, they're not out of separation, but they're out of a natural flow that feels expansive. When you're doing a seeking want, it always feels tight, lackful, fearful. There's always an anxiety in it. And you're doing a natural want, it feels expansive. And those natural wants are what you'll actually get because it's the right energy behind it. on the human level. Like it all works through energy, this universe. So if you're on seeking, you're holding positive and negativity, what you don't want and what you do want, really strongly. And so that's what you're attracting, both of those. So you're sort of cancelling them out, or attracting both, or attracting one more than the other. But if you're wanting something and it's not from a place of avoidance, but it's a natural flow, an expansive flow, then that's what will come to you, because it's all energy, this universe. If your energy is in line, if you're in flow, then that's what will happen. So say, like, when you're creating art, if you're an artist, or the greatest artists, they always describe it like God's acting through them. It's not their will, it's as such, it's not their actions, it's God's actions. And that's what I mean by the natural wants, this flow, allowing God in, allowing God to take the reins. And when you do that, when it is life taking the reins and life acting, it feels expansive. It's beautiful when you're in flow. Just surrendering those reins more and more. Just giving it to life. Life is acting, not you. When it's seeking, when it's you, it's always about fear and lack. So the two base feelings of separation is fear of survival and lack of love. Now these don't necessarily, you can have these feelings and they're not separate feelings as well, but like you can have the sense that somebody doesn't love you or doesn't like you, and you can also have fear because a lion's running towards you. They can be natural feelings, not identified feelings, but seeking energy is motivated to avoid that. And this is so subtle that it's hard to detect. So let me give an example. So the example is, say you want to buy a house. Sorry, I was just talking about this with someone today, so if you're that someone that I was talking to this about, I'm sorry. I find that with my examples, they tend to be quite, they tend to be based on what's actually currently happening with me or around me. So I was talking about this today. So say if you want to buy a house, but you're coming at buying the house from a sense of fear, but you're not even aware of that. It's just this energy that you must buy a house and that you need a house. And when you go into the feeling, when you look at your reasons and when you think about getting a house, and remember our feelings are always changing, so it might be different at certain times, but predominantly. So when you look at that feeling that arises when you think about buying a house, you might notice there's tension there. And if you explore that, you might realize that underneath it, when you think about buying a house, becomes, say, lack, a feeling of lack, that you don't deserve it, or a sense of fear that if you buy a house, something will go wrong. Now that's seeking, and then what happens on the surface is you're not conscious of that underlying game, that game that's being played. And then what happens on the surface is the person is very desperate to do it and finds the process very stressful, And lots of problems are created in buying a house. Maybe they can't buy a house, they can't ever find what they want, or they never manage to, or they buy a house and there's lots of problems with it. And the reason that is because you came at wanting that object from a sense of lack or fear. And so that's what you brought into the subject. That's what your energy aligned up with. So when God acts or life acts through this body, it feels expansive, it feels natural. And sometimes after awakening, there still can be the residue of some of these old patterns, like it's deeply ingrained in humanity to act like this, but they're easily seen. But that doesn't matter. So this can still carry on sometimes after awakening, but it's lighter and it's different and it changes a lot easier. And this can be the play before awakening, and sometimes before awakening you don't know what is meant by life acting so much, but it doesn't matter. Just try to get the flow of it a bit. And what you want to do is you want to do as many things from that expansive place, or if you aren't acting from that expansive place, be aware. So if you are acting from fear, be aware that you're acting from fear, and you can do things to transform that fear, so you can keep moving your attention to what it is actually you want. Like you can name things that you want that make you feel expansive. So if you're coming at buying the house from a fearful place, I want somewhere that makes me feel safe. And I want somewhere that I can call home. I want somewhere where I can feel relaxed, where I can be by myself, and focus on more positive things about it. And like do this reconditioning of making it more positive. And just by doing that, the experience will change. You don't need to focus on positivity for the experience to change. You just need to focus on your motivation for it, and it will change. The whole experience of buying the house will change. And you'll notice when you focus on what you want, so when you say to yourself, what is it that I actually want in buying a house? So you're feeling agitated, I must buy a house, and you're looking through houses to buy. And then when you focus on what you want, so you notice there's fear there, and you focus, I want to feel safe, you'll notice that it feels more in line. It feels more expansive. It doesn't come from such a negative energy. And this is in a way mini awakenings. It's like the seeking energy stopping momentarily, and then you feel that flow of life. Normally for most people, they're going throughout their whole life this contraction and expansiveness. And then when you have an awakening, the expansiveness is so big that you really see this isn't a divided reality. And when you're really contracted, you're really suffering and unhappy, and normally you're blaming something for that. And when you're more expansive, you feel happy, and you're normally giving credit to a person or something for that. But it's actually this. Your happiness is this moment. Your freedom is this moment. And it's this that creates suffering and freedom, nothing else. Your mind might think it's events. In a way, the events can sometimes reflect your internal world anyway. So if you are always having a problem feeling homeless or feeling like you can't find a home, it most probably is. And in the external, a home's never manifesting. It most probably is internally, inside of you. There's a big seeking energy around it that's pushing it away. So positivity and negativity is a state of mind. And what you want to come back to is your natural organic flow, letting life flow, letting the divine flow, letting God, whatever you call it, flow through these instruments, giving everything back to life so it flows. And that will profoundly change the person and most probably make the person more positive, and more alive and more vital. It did here, but who knows how it manifests in all other bodies. So it most probably will make it more of a positive outlook. I'm pretty sure it will, a positive outlook. Forgot what I was saying. And embracing the negative, because the negativity is positive and negative is mind made, and it's like you're in the separation. You're trying to run towards positivity and get away from negativity, and you've got to embrace both sides of you. And then on the human level, you can transform stuck seeking ideas, but it's like you've got to embrace the monster under the bed. Like fear is simply fear, destruction is simply destruction. It's actually not good nor bad. It is as it is. It's through the embracing of it that it can transform, and you see it all as the divine, which is inherently positive. And then on the human level, there's an acting from a different place. There's this flow happening. Okay, let's take some questions.